सॉरी यार, मुझे ये लड्डू नहीं मिला।
खास चीजें हो या इन्वेस्टमेंट, अलग अलग जगहों पर रखने में ही समझदारी है। इसीलिए म्यूचुअल फंड्स ये आपके पैसों को अलग अलग जगहों पर इन्वेस्ट कर मार्केट के रिस्क को कम करते हैं। म्यूचुअल फंड, सेविंग का नया तरीका। म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Growing up, one didn't really fully understand, firstly, the politics of the day, and there was a bigger game in terms of international cricket. We were pretty much isolated, and we were cut off. Television only arrived, I think, in 76, 77, 78. That was controlled. So everything in terms of, we were conditioned and to believe a certain thing. But we were so hungry for cricket. I think that was the huge excitement that, come on, let's just play cricket. I mean, guys like Collis King, he was 76, I think he was a hero. The brand of cricket that day, but not really knowing what actually was happening here. And yes, they were facing difficulties in going back. What would happen if they went back to the Caribbean? Coming to, you can imagine, apartheid South Africa. So
I'm fast forwarding now to 1991, and here you are, all of a sudden, South Africa is reintroduced into international cricket. The team flies to India, plays 3 one-day internationals, goes to a World Cup in 92. Can you remember that time, Daryl? Because you didn't quite make the team at the time, but you were obviously very close to being the top sort of 15, 20 cricketers in the country at the time, and one of the emerging batsmen of the era.
Well, it had been a year or two earlier. I'm convinced I would have gone. I was in this, there was a squad of 20 or 15, and it was a huge disappointment for me because I believed I should have gone. But it started in the sort of 89, 90. And I specifically remember that time because I was then 25 with no thought or plans of that stage, what was coming ahead, playing international cricket. In fact, it almost said, right, after 8 years of first-class cricket, I must now get a job. It's time to settle now and move on. Not move on, but cricket was going to come second in my life. And a lot of us were in that similar position. And then we're 90, 91. At that stage, I was planning to go to Australia. Tony Greig had organised at Sydney University, and word, I'd asked 1 or 2 people and got word that don't do. Things are going to be changing in the next year or so. I don't think I really would have gone in any case. I wanted to be at home. So the change and word of that was coming, but with Mandela's release, then suddenly the opportunity obviously beckoned with the tour and our relationship with India, which goes back many, many years. It's been a very, very strong relationship. And they'd worked tirelessly, I guess, in getting to that situation very quickly.
Can you think back to your test debut? Here you are, suddenly a test cricketer, having spent your entire life as in cricket, never imagining that this would happen. And you were saying you actually set yourselves some very clear goals about what you wanted to do in the game.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that time and your thought process?
I debuted against India. It was in Cape Town. Yeah. I think throughout your career, and I don't think I'd find too many batsmen who would disagree with me. There's certain times and moments that are vivid, that you can see over and over again. And to me, it was Kapil Dev running in, and it was a way swinger, and it was sort of back a length, probably middle and leg. And I clipped it around the corner, and Cyril Mitchell was the umpire, and it was to his left, and he stepped aside, and I was off the mark with 2. I look back, first-class cricket, 23 years, they're games that I don't remember. Often I'll pick up something. I actually can't recall what actually happened in that match. I can see a figure, a runs or naught or whatever. You happen to bowl 3 overs there. But that moment just sticks in my mind.
And you also set yourself a very precise and clear target, which is worth talking about.
Well, I essentially was 26, so I wasn't going to play a lot of international cricket. And we weren't big earners at that stage. We became contracted 3 or 4 years later when Wilma took over. So in terms of goal setting, there was always going to be at some stage you've got to get a job, you've got to start working, you've got to again. So it was this whole story again. So I said, look, I want 10 test hundreds and I want to play everybody home and away. And I got to 32 and that was it. And I'd got to 14 and then played everybody home and away and said, right, that's it. Simple as that.
Staying with what we've been talking about so far. Now you are an international team, but there is also this team environment where the politics of the country obviously plays a role, the situation of society as it was at the time. What do you remember of the team environment at that time? Was there still difficulties in integrating coloured and black players into the team?
It was obviously going to be a process, but cricket and sort of the early 90s was still in white hands, and it was given a lot of talk as such that facilities need to be upgraded and this is where the game needs to get to and there needs to be changed and there needs change. But I think it's been given more lip service than anything else. We were still a white team, still playing with our mates. And the 96 World Cup was the first, I'd say, enforced selection when they picked Paul Adams when Nicky Boyer should have gone. Now some may say, well, we could understand Adams' selection. He'd got test wickets. With his freakish action, he was difficult to pick and that sort of thing. But if you think of the quality cricketer Nicky Boyer was, he should have gone. We all knew that. And at first class level, I don't think there were too many guys of colour coming through. So it was nothing, things had changed, but in terms of cricket, it had not changed. But the pressure was slowly going to start coming, and as things politically started to move, then it was a natural progression.
Here you are as a cricket team wanting to go out there and win. At all costs. And here's another line of thinking saying we've got to introduce these players because otherwise there'll be no opportunity to young emerging black players. How did that play out within the team? What was the thought process there?
Well, in the team and selection wise, it could only happen as quickly as the transformation process was happening. So that had to be arrested and had to be brought to say, right, stop giving it lip service. So within the team at that time, it wasn't really an issue with us. There was no one that was going to be able to make the team. No one that was good enough. I don't think we were opposed to it. It wasn't as if, at the end of the day, you're a cricketer and you want to play with the best 10 guys around you. You don't go in with a political mindset. So it really started to come to the fore in terms of transformation. 96 it really got going, 97. 98, and domestically you started to see change, coaching levels, and a bigger at ground level in terms of coaching and that type of thing. And when we were faced with one or two guys who were in the squad and you questioned that and you thought and you wondered, well, what's really happening here? I'll be honest, Mackay and Tini, when he came on the scene, the first 2-3 years, Sean Pollock bowled a lot of his overs. These sorts of things were happening.
Because you remember the phrase, right, Daryl, there can be no normal sport in an abnormal society. That was one of the catchphrases at the time. Did you sense that as well, that you'd almost needed as a cricket team to embrace a player who perhaps isn't going to be who perhaps can be replaced by a better white player, but you've just got to get this person an opportunity in the team? Was there an understanding that you needed to do that as a sports team?
I don't think anybody had an issue who was selected, but it did come to the head where it got to a stage where if a guy was, I remember Lance Kleisner was one, he was being left out the team, and we said, no, hang on, we want to be compensated for that. So there was a change in that regard. But I don't think our thinking and whatever was politically driven. Yes, we wanted to see the best team play. I think even today. But that's still the same sort of issue. Now we obviously know where it is today. So the importance of it, the understanding of it, again, I don't think we grasped it. We didn't see the picture that we know today. That there's a much bigger picture to sport and transformation. So there was resistance. I mean, there was a day where now the thoughts were that we need to get all the role players together, players and whatever. And prominent people then was Gerald Majola, Kaya Majola. Yeah. I think Kaya had passed away, and his loss was a great loss too. Krish Makadush's loss was but Kaya's loss, and Kaya in the early 40s was he was early 40s. So these role players with first time dialogue. So understanding started to slowly through that. We started to appreciate and understand where everybody's coming from. I wish it had happened more often and quicker.
You touched on Mackay Antini. That's an important one because he became one of South Africa's great bowlers, went on to be a very successful, very good test record. But can you remember the time when he comes in? Would it be fair to say there was a little bit of resentment about his introduction? Was he introduced too early? Was it felt that he wasn't ready for international cricket? What was that time like?
We had the emergence of a young guy who could bowl. And I tell you what, of all bowlers and cricketers I played with, he had the biggest heart. He's a story on its own. He's worth a movie being made. That guy. I don't think his life and where he came from and what he achieved has been truly appreciated. But there was potential, and the system was also getting us as we were hungry. We need to see. Politically, they wanted a black cricket. They wanted to see transformation being recognised. And we want to see kids watching TV, come from the bigger South Africa, identifying with someone like Mackay.
Yes.
So
and you were on board with that?
At that stage. If he was good enough and he was performing, absolutely no problem.
Was he good enough?
Initially, he had pace, he had raw talent, but he wasn't the finished product.
And so not ready for test cricket?
It was probably a bit too early. But then you can argue there have been some guys who come in. But I always remember Cronje's statement. He always said, test cricket's not a finish in school. But where Mackay was brilliant, Mackay made it his own. And that's why I say he was a remarkable human being. And whereas, there were one or two selections beyond that. But it didn't take Mackay long. And he was contributing. I think of Mackay, and I think first test was Newlands, a short ball to Aravinda de Silva. But everybody wanted to see heroes like him. The support, if you were at Newlands at that time, then we had Mfuneko Ngam, who was for about 2 years, was quick.
Yeah.
And in his first test match, I put down 2, and I was booed. I was booed by basically a white cricket audience. And when Mackay got that wicket against the Swans, I promise you, I got cold now when I think about it. So there wasn't this, what's he doing then? No. I think we don't, get be given enough appreciation for whilst it was happening, people on the field just want to see the best, whatever it is, to this day.
The 95 World Cup, the Rugby World Cup in South Africa. And here, this great moment that's been eulogized in film, and for those of us on the outside who've only read and heard stories of it. But you are an international sportsman at the time when this event is going on in your country, and your country wins a big World Cup and is seen as this great unifying event. Did that percolate down to the cricket team at all?
I think we all as people invited that spirit. We as a cricket team would definitely have invited that spirit. But it took moments like that. It took dialogue. It took a lot of understanding, because they also understand where we had to come from. So it wasn't just us trying to understand what the requirements, the demands, or a new South Africa. Because we were so segregated, and people don't appreciate how segregated we were. So in terms of our sport and where we're going, it took time, but it took moments like that, as you mentioned.
Another challenge that comes to you as a cricket team, 9-10 years down just as an international team, and you get embroiled in a huge match fixing scandal, your captain gets indicted, all of that happens. Did that damage you as cricketers as well? And what sort of, did it feel like it was almost treacherous to do this to a young cricketing nation, not understanding the implication of what can happen?
That put us back many, many years from a leadership point of view, our reputation. I can only speak for myself, but it left us very disappointed, disillusioned. We didn't expect that, from a man of his stature and leadership, and as it's kind of through the years evolved, we got to know more about it, which was we never expected. How actually the more there was to this whole story.
But what was the choice, Daryl? Because here's a situation where a whole country feels let down by the actions of its captain, it's a couple of its cricketers, and there's suspicion about how deep-rooted this is. There's been talk of this infamous meeting where Hansi Cronje offered the team a certain reward for underperforming, etc. So all of these factors, when they come out in the public domain, almost feels like you're cheating a whole country.
A meeting was called. Bob Wilmer wasn't there. He was the coach at that time, and he had said, right, it's on the table. This is the amount. We're all in or all out. What do you guys think? And it came as no surprise to us, because you obviously knew there were things going on, whether you were right or wrong.
This is the amount to lose a cricket match.
To basically to throw the game and be in a benefit match, and we were finished. I can tell you after our tour, I think we were thinking of Bob. Should Bob Field or Paddy's got to perhaps come on? Paddy Upton was part of. Then we had Dave Richardson couldn't play. Gary Kirsten kept wicket. It's the only cricket match in my life that I knew we were going to lose. Only match I've ever played. And they batted first, and Jadeja got 100, and then Robin Singh bowled aside. We were like 35 for 5. I think our top scored for about 18. I got about 18. But that was it, and it was over. It was gone. As far as what I knew, that was it. So then to get back and go through it, so I personally felt, you know what, and we were Shamila Batoy. She was acting on behalf of King Commission. We were interviewed, we had to give statements, and I really, really, with being clear, it had been reported that it was off, and 3 of us had said no, and that experience was traumatic. So I look back on that, and in many ways, but in a good few ways, that Southern cricket there died for me. All that, what we'd been through and where we wanted to be, and the real enjoyment side. And I'll always look back, and I've got an issue with that. I've still got to forgive that whole situation, but I was very disappointed in the way they handled us. And back home, and people making there's a report from one of the sponsors. He'd sat next to some man on a plane, and he'd said that we all corrupt, and now we all corrupt. We were never defended, at least some of us. To a point, some integrity around it. Just show some respect. We were lambs to the slaughter and just thrown out there.
You're quite distant from cricket now. You talk about it sometimes on forums like this, but you're not directly involved. Where do you see cricket in South Africa right now? You told us the story of it being a white man's sport, really, and now there's been all these attempts made at making it a more inclusive sport. Has there been success in that area, or is it still largely a white man's sport in South Africa?
It's probably going to be, but the effort is obviously government and all that, and the wider story to all of that. My issue around that is it's inherently it's not a black man's game in the country. The legacy of apartheid, people say, that was an issue. They shouldn't blame that, but it's a fact. Because if you look at the townships where they were built on the outskirts of white South Africa. Now there's two massive problems, the logistics. So if you want to get a kid, say, from Soweto, which is our second biggest city in the country, combined with Johannesburg, got 7-8 million people. Now, I've got guys who've come from there, I've worked with, who've coached for me and that type of thing. When you've got a public transport system which is not efficient, it's another form of taxis and transport system. It's not safe. It's problematic getting from certain areas. The guys that work from Soweto can take them 2.5 hours. Now I'll drive him home and drop him off in 20 minutes. So you're going to get kids on that transport system. So a young kid that's got to travel an hour and a half both ways to come to a cricket academy, the Daryl Cullinan Cricket Academy. It's probably a round trip going to cost him 40 Rand. His mom's a single mom, domestic worker. That's a quarter of a monthly salary. And he's on a taxi, and you don't know how safe it's going to be, and he's getting home late because of the distance issue and location-wise. The other thing is schools from the apartheid era. They were compounds. They weren't built with expansion and facilities in mind. That's why most of them in the township, you'll see a soccer field. Clubs, space has been a problem, but those two things. So in that, you've seen the export of out of the townships into better cricketing schools. You can't call them white schools anymore. That's not the case. It's schools now where cricket is. If I think of schools like King Edward and Queen's College. But why I say, you find another Ntini, you need the mass. Ntini is a one in a 100,000, a million, you know what I'm trying to say. So you need that. You need numbers. And it's quite remarkable that we still see kids coming through. But if you're going to now develop black cricketers, you need those numbers and growth of that. And the third thing is club cricket in the townships. Those facilities and taking care of that and growing that has not been there. And where that money has been spent and why and not, because there's been this urgency to, get numbers at the top level.
Yeah. Selection,
I see now at junior representative level, as I've read, is going to be 8 black African cricketers in the squad.
Yeah.
So, but the sustainability, and you ask me where is cricket in South Africa going, it's got to go from, in my thoughts, you've got to build that. And how? With the legacy of apartheid is a huge challenge. And sadly, I don't think it's going to be that successful to achieve that, because how do you get around that?
Well, Daryl, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You've taken us through a fascinating journey, and maybe in a few years' time we can do this again and see where things are with South African cricket. But thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure and an honour to be chatting to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's going, mallet this and mallet that, and bloody mallet. And I said, Kerry, 2 things. I said, if you don't like what I'm saying, there's a switch there with a V, starts with a V, you can just turn it like that and you don't hear anything. And I said, if that's not good enough for you, there's another one with OFF on it, and you just go bang and you stop it and you won't hear anything, So that was an early experience. So by the time I started full-time as a cricket commentator with Channel 9, I'd had a bit of experience.